like, do you guys hear my fan? And they're like, no, I can't hear your fan. And I'm like, I can hear it pretty clearly. So like, whatever microphone, like it's cutting out the fan noise kind of thing.
Yeah, that's okay. We've started. Hello, welcome back, everybody. Riley, welcome back. You're my first return guest. When you were on last, it was called Let's Talk, and as of right now, the show is still called Let's Talk. But I think I'm going to change the name to something different. I'm just not feeling that. That was kind of like, and so by the time this hits the waves, it'll probably have a new name that'll be the first of it. Anyhow, welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the mics. Okay, the one thing I can't get over with, as I've got into this, so don't pretend to be like some sound technician, not that I like, oh, I'm a sound technician, but like, I'm not even pretending like, oh, I'm looking really deep into it. I'm just trying to produce on a quality level where you can just listen to it. I'm not too worried about it. But man, is it a crazy world of like just sound quality. And I can't imagine if like you're gifted in it, how crazy it must be to listen to everything that's audio. But these mics are incredible. Like they're actually incredible. So right now we have them on cordioid, I think it is. So it's basically like the mic is, if you can picture, it's kind of a bubble going towards you and around you.
Okay.
And then we can switch it so that it's omni, meaning it's just a circular, which is, I guess, environment. Then you can go to one where it's two people sitting across from each other having a conversation. And then the other one is you can record music with it, like singing.
Damn.
Yeah, and it's all just one mic, which is crazy.
Yeah, technology's gotten insane nowadays, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I have like a decent ear for audio quality stuff, but I'm also not like I wouldn't say I'm an audiophile or anything, and I also think maybe if someone is an audiophile, then podcasts aren't the right place to scratch your itch necessarily. I don't know. Like ASMR is like more of the kind of zone, or certain music or whatever, but like podcasts are, it's meant the target point is like informational rather than sensational or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Neve did an ASMR podcast for one of these, and it's so stupid.
A little whisper.
We brought I think it was like 4 or 5 items each to ASMR, and because Neve always listens to before bed the like all that stuff, right? And I always walk in, and no matter which one it is, I'll just go. And anyhow, so we brought it, and hers were like, I don't know, like a pillowcase, and she'd rub it because that's like something they use. All real ASMRs. Mine was like I was like using my armpit to do it and shit.
Do you know what ASMR stands for? I don't even know what it means.
Auditory, sensory, MR. It's just FR.
Auditory, sensory, maybe righteous?
Maybe. I don't have internet, and I think you should stay away from it, and we'll just go with that.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah, I'm happy. Me. I don't want to turn a conversation into a... Yeah.
Okay, so this is one thing that I felt is weird about AI coming in, okay? So we used to Google things, and Google, you could actually like, you'd have to look for an answer, even though I'm pretty sure most people would Google and they'd look at the first thing. Maybe they look at 2 or 3 links, but probably the first one, right? But you had this kind of like option to like find what the answer was. Whereas now when you Google something, AI answers you. And I think that's weird because then it means that everyone only believes what the AI says now. Not that before it didn't. It's weird because it was like kind of the same before, right? But that barrier entry of like you can not just read the answer, you have choice. Whereas now it's like I know for a fact someone will like Google something and the AI will be like, "This is it," and they'll just go, "Okay, perfect." They don't even think for half a second about if what it's reading is right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of like one of my favorite comedians. Bill Burr, I remember he said something like, that's why libraries are good. Like, if you got your information from the library, cool. Like, I'm happy to talk to you. Do you know why? Because the library has the decency to separate things between fiction and nonfiction, and the internet doesn't do that. And so, yeah, I always loved that kind of sentiment of like, yeah, no, back in the day there was a clear divide between fact and opinion or fiction or whatever, and online there's been a bit of a blending of the two where, yeah, people's opinions are now their facts.
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you. I got so confused by the internet. Like, I was just like, I don't know what to believe anymore. So I just stopped going on it for like all social media and stuff. And I just stopped paying attention to it because I just felt like I was just like, okay, I don't know if this is true or not. And so I just like left that. And it's actually been so nice. And then and then to see people that are still like so caught up in it, because it's a crazy thing. It's not a thing of like what's wrong with people. It's like it's a crazy thing that's happening to everyone. This like bombardment of information, and like you said, there's like no line between fact or fiction. There's just, it's all out there, and you have to decide. And then it's like crazy. I don't know, that there's a thing that I have on here I wanted to talk about. I'll just bring it up right away. Is I think we might have talked about this on Wednesday, but doesn't matter. Our brain, I heard someone say that tech is superseded what our brains comprehend, and so we're now living in this world where we have technology that is superior to where our like mental state's supposed to be. And that's why a lot of the way the world is right now, and why people will be like, oh no, have you seen some people and they like look like batshit crazy exhausted and they're freaking out, and then they're like, and you're like, they're freaking out. And I get like they're obviously going on about like politics and stuff, but the main fact is they're just exhausted, and all they're doing is just in North Vancouver staring at their phone.
Right.
And
right.
And I'm like, maybe they're like getting screwed over by what tech is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess it's interesting to think about how like the cell phone, well, I should start by saying I am a strong advocate, and maybe I said this on our first podcast, but I'm a strong advocate for not calling them cell phones and instead calling them PDDs, which stands for personal distraction device, because like 98% of what we use them for has nothing to do with a phone. But continuing to call them cell phones is a very like innocent justification for always having them on us and always having access to them, in the same way that calling alcohol and not a drug is always this kind of like subconscious justification towards usage.
Both those are interesting thoughts. Yeah, it is true. You're right. Like, your phone is, for whatever use you actually need it for, it's so minuscule to the amount of time you're on it.
Yeah, because growing up for me, like a phone was something that like I had to compete with to use the internet. And like dial-up internet. Like I'd be playing a game or something, and my mom, like that horrific sound that the dial-up would make that sounded like a transformer trying to like beatbox or something. And it would, and then I'd be like, Mom, you're ruining my game. Or she'd be like, I'm on the phone, you need to get off the internet. And so it's just kind of hilarious to think that not that long ago, within my childhood, there was a direct competition between what was an actual phone and what was the internet. And now we have an infinitely more complex internet on our phones that we're neglecting to call computers, and we just keep calling phones.
Yo, that's trippy. That's super precise. Like, that's so true. It just like, first off, as soon as you started talking about dial-up, I couldn't help but think of, for me, that was playing Diablo 2. And how on Diablo 2, my mom and I would be on there for like 3 hours getting all ready, and doing everything, setting up your character. And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, let's do this. And all of a sudden your mom goes onto the phone, and it's just, she can't call anyone. You have your stupid dial-up going off, and then it just freezes everything. Dial-up was a trip, man. I completely forgot about dial-up. That's so funny.
So it's just, I know I've talked to numerous people in my life about how how
Those look really good.
it's. I just pulled a frozen ham and cheese croissant out of the oven. Not frozen anymore. It was frozen before it went in the oven.
Feel free to plug the sponsor, our unofficial sponsor.
I don't actually know the name of the company.
It's Costco.
Oh, Costco. Sorry. I was like, I threw out the box the first day. I cut out the instructions and
They're this small little company called Costco. Thank you, Costco, for making the little man's dream come true.
I had a Costco dream come true back in December when we got our first snowfall, and it was a Saturday evening. We got a bunch of snow, and then I told myself I want to go to Costco tomorrow morning, and I had set my alarm for like 7 a.m. I woke up. It had been snowing all night. There's a lot of snow on the road, and I grew up with snow. I grew up driving in snow. I learned how to drive in the snow, so I was like, sweet, great. So I went to Costco, and there was no one there.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like, I think probably 80+% of the people that planned on going that morning just stayed home once they saw the snow, and they're probably driving their 6-year-old all-season tires that are semi-bald or whatever. And, yeah. And there was no one there. It was like a ghost town. There's maybe like 20 people, it felt like, in the entire Costco. Normally there's like 300 people at like 3 p.m. on a weekday, and I'm always like, how are so many people here at this time on a weekday and they're not working? While I'm also one of those people.
Yeah, I always do that too. You make the exception for you. I'm like, why is someone out drinking at the bar at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday and it's me?
Yeah. These aren't all RMTs. and it was such a treat. I shopped, and then I walked right up to the till. There was not a single lineup for a single cashier. I just walked right up to the cashier.
Was there like just?
It was like my birthday.
Did they have tons of free samples out? I
did go in there at like opening moment. I think it was 8 a.m. So,
because do you think they like that the free samples, like, is that like an autonomous thing where it's like they're like, you must go out, and they're like, there's no one in the store, and they're like, get out there, it's not about that? Or is it like they're like, no, you don't have to go out, obviously no one's there?
As far as the people that are handing out the samples, I know, because I met someone once that actually that was their job. They were like, I hand out samples at Costco, and I was like, whoa, like, I feel like I'm meeting like a very specific type of NPC right now. So it is an internal thing by Costco themselves. Like, the guy wasn't a Costco employee rather than like an employee from that company or that made the item or whatever.
Right.
So it's some kind of internal promotion.
Yeah, because I could just see it being a hilarious scenario where they're like, sir, there's no one in the store. And he's like, I said, where are the samples? And they're like, there's no one here. Do I really have to do this? And he's like, do you want to keep your job, Margaret? Get the goddamn yogurt-covered raisins out there. Now.
We have a quota, Margaret. Those spicy dill pickle chips aren't going to eat themselves. Better get those into the hands of people. Quick.
You're going to lose your job unless that bag's done by the end of the day. Sir, there's no one here. Okay, well, that was the Costco. Thank you for the unofficial sponsorship. Without you guys, honestly, I don't know. Like, do I need Costco in my life? Literally, no. But 100%, I don't want to live without it. And have you seen Idiocracy?
I rewatched it for probably the 10th time 1 week ago.
Perfect. Okay, so you know how like there's like Welcome to Costco, I love you, and then there's like the university and everything. So my prediction for the future is that, but it's not just Costco. It's like all the big brands are like that, and we'll have to swear our allegiance. And I'm 100% Team Costco.
Idiocracy is on Disney Plus, by the way, for anyone that hasn't seen it yet. Amazing film. Don't want to spoil anything, but Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson's brother, Maya Rudolph,
yeah.
Justin Long, some really great, hilarious actors and actresses.
That, you know what's weird about it is like when we watched it growing up, it was the future. Now it's like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like the past. Like it just happened. And we're like, oh shit, I remember that.
It's like a cult classic film because of its like seemingly like Nostradamus like predictive capability as far as like the United States will be run by a celebrity who isn't really very well versed in like, you know, politics stuff, and they're more like a kind of a rah-rah type person.
Okay, well, think of Donald Trump and then think of President Camacho. And it's literally the same thing, but it's just like one's a movie, but it's like basically the same thing. Like it's you're like you come out here like even his thing where he's like fight, like
Right.
that could have been in Idiocracy. Like that
Oh,
could
yeah.
have been it would have been a seamless part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess like yeah, no, it's such a good movie. It's honestly so funny, and just the funny part is that one of the most like informationally dense parts of the movie is at the very beginning. And there's like a little narration that happens at the very beginning of the film, and it talks about like he has this kind of like old school voice, and he talks about the way things went down. I'm starting to. I feel like I'm sounding like native right now, which is not how I'm
you're
trying
not.
to sound.
You're not
but,
doing
like,
it, but it's not native.
yeah,
But I know what you mean.
It's
Yeah,
this old like 1950s like fucking radio voice.
back in the day when boys were boys and girls were girls, and they liked blah blah. But yeah, I can't.
And we
do
grabbed
it
the
either.
ice cream cones and went down to the beach.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And yeah, and it just talks about like once man reached the point where they were the dominant species on the planet, there were no more predators, no more competitors. Like, and then it just talks about how like fucking like basically the reinforcing energies that would have caused our species to behave a certain way were now gone, and there's no survival of the fittest anymore. It's just survival of the whoever's fucking the most.
Well, this is what's it's super weird. You know how we talk about like things that we did like as cavemen that are I guess like our like nature, I guess, like our, I don't know what's it called, our like it's in our genetics, like what we are.
Yeah.
It's so weird because as much as I agree with that to an extent, like the idea of like the one I really think that is a smart one that makes sense to me is like waking up with the sun or seeing the sun come up and go down. That is one to me where I'm like, okay, like, you know what, in the modern world, I still think there's a huge, like, that's very applicable. You should see that happen, right? But some of them are just so, like, I'm like, we don't live in that world anymore, and I feel like we're so evolved out of it for quite a long time that, like, some of them I'm like, hey, come on, like, I don't know, you know, the Liver King, and all he eats is all meat. I've literally
Like organ meat.
yeah, like I've literally heard.
This is a bull testicle. Yes, it is.
You're like I don't think you need to do that, but like even that, it's just, it seems like you're doing that and it's against our nature now, where I don't know, I guess probably they were eating bull nuts back in the day. I'll give them that. They probably were.
Just sorry to interrupt. Just while we're on the topic of this Liver King guy, because obviously he's not going to constitute a large quantity of the podcast. Have you seen the clip of him? Like, I think it was after he got exposed for steroid use, after like building up a whole persona of like,
It was just
I
the
have
liver.
this body because of all the crazy things that I eat and that I do. And then he put out some video with his wife, and his wife has this like completely dead in the eyes look on her face, and he's like sitting at the table and she's like standing behind his chair kind of thing, and yeah, she just has this like, I don't know, her face isn't even very like animated at all. It's not like expressing a lot, but I feel like what it is expressing is this like deep, ineffable sense of regret. Because at the end of the clip, the Liver King's like, "I love you, my queen," and she like looks down at him like this like lifeless like corpse, and just kind of, I don't know if she even says anything back. I can't remember.
She just sighs.
It's so funny. I'll find it and send it to you after.
Because that's the thing is like, yeah, like I get the whole like you marry someone, you're like with them in sickness and in health, but I feel like even within saying that, when you reference that, you're more referencing like God forbid they get in an accident and can't care for themselves. I feel like if your partner is like a normal person, like imagine me, okay, and use my partner, and then imagine me 5 or 10 years from now, and I'm the liver king. You could surely be like, it's okay, Neve. We don't expect you to stay with that anymore.
Man, I mean, I feel like, yeah, we're really tipping the hat to the Liver King here. But I had the thought, I was like, what were these people like growing up? Like, what was the Liver King like in like elementary school? Was it just like super like nerdy and bullied, or like, like did they always have this kind of degree of like ignorance is bliss to their personality even from a young age, or was it something that came about in their adulthood or whenever? It's interesting to think about.
Anytime someone's as jacked as the Liver King is, even if it's through steroids, like you regardless of like what you think of the Liver King, his physique is this. It's crazy. Like that's not natural, because there's a whole bunch of dudes that do steroids and are jacked and they don't look like that, right? So I've always found whenever someone's that fit, they're probably have some really like brutal, like it's like they're trying to prove something to someone, or like they were bullied, or they weren't good enough for their parents, like some really deep-seated hurt. Because the reason I like started noticing this or thinking this part was I watched a thing, and I want to say it was the top 7, maybe 10 fitness models in the world. And it was when I was like really, really into just working out. And I was like, and it was the 10 of these dudes. And they were you would recognize them, because if you've ever seen a fitness magazine, I don't know fitness models and all that shit. But like, not, this is before him, but like, yes, like that. It's like you would have seen them in a magazine being this jack dude, right? So it's the 10 like biggest ones. And I watched for like 2 hours the most insecure, like make excuses for why they aren't at the top people, and they're all at the top. So it's weird, because you're like, oh, they're all like these elite dudes, but the whole time they're being like, oh, well, like, first off, they always bring up some form of trauma. Like, for sure, some form of trauma, whether it's like their parents ignored them, or like they were bullied in school, or even the trauma. It doesn't have to be like legitimate heavy trauma, like, oh, I just wanted this girl and she went with the good looking dude and not me, kind of thing, where you're like, oh, okay, so like it's stupid, but it is like in their life, it's that big of a trauma to them, right? So they have that underlying, and then the whole time they're doing this, they're doing things like this, like, well, like, yeah, I mean, I work the hardest, and every single thing I have, you see it, it's in the gym. You don't get like me unless you work hard. But then and then the guy next to them will say the same thing. But then the guy that said it first will be like, yeah, but your genetics are more like, you have superior genetics, so that's why you got this and this. And so it was this weird, like, pissing contest of these super jack dudes, all being like, no, it's all about hard work, but for me, but everyone else has this genetic gift. And then there's the one main guy that had just won. It was so sad. They caught him. He was like, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. And I guess the camera followed him. And he was in a different room eating protein powder just raw. Just like raw, like this. Like, Riley, like this. It was like he was hunched over, like away, and he was eating it. And they're like, what the? Catching him. He was like this. He's like, ah. And they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, I just need to get a little more protein in. And he was the number one dude. And he was saying, and he started like breaking down. And he was like, I'm just around all these super jack dudes. And like, I know, they got better than me. I got it, blah, blah. And I'm like watching like, holy,
yeah,
these people are fucking, they're not just like, yo, I work real hard. They're like messed up.
Yeah. It makes me think of almost like heroin addicts or something like that, where like you were saying about how they always feel like in competition, and they're just trying to like feel okay with themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like a bunch of people that share an environment but are all like traumatized and like trying to find their way out of it, and they just like are trying to get some kind of relief or whatever. Yeah, I had a more coherent analogy to why it felt like a heroin addict, and I couldn't quite describe it there, but yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I know steroid use amongst like young men's gone up a lot in the last while, and that's definitely like
Well, Sam Sulek,
concerning.
like
Yeah, I mean Sam Sulek's a very good example. I think he started in like his early 20s, which is really kind of scary. But yeah, ultimately it's like, to each their own kind of thing. Like people are doing, whether you're a professional football player that has a certain percentage of susceptibility to like CTE, or there's various different life paths that all have a degree of semi-calculable risk or whatever. Oh, you want to be a police officer? Cool. You might get killed by some random crazy person or whatever, right? So there's always like risks and stuff. So I'm like, to a degree, I just think people should do whatever they want as long as it's not harming other people. But then on the other hand, it's like, I think if you took the time to learn about evolution and history and everything that like went into like humans becoming what they are, and like what we are today, and our bodies being what they are today and everything, like if you were able to kind of cherish that to some degree, I think it would probably combat this feeling of like, oh, I need to artificially change myself.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I do agree with you. Like, I don't think that, like, I have nothing against steroids and people that want to do them. I will say I think there's a lot of dangers with it, especially if you abuse them. But I feel like at a certain point, if you're saying that, it's like anything. It's like, well, if you abuse it, it's bad for you. Like, of course.
Yeah, you can abuse cheeseburgers, as Joe Rogan famously said.
But like the one thing I think with like young people, and fitness, like specifically, is I feel like when you see, like, for example, if you look at Joe Rogan is, first off, he's on TRT, and he's like, so that's a huge thing, right? To be able at his age to be that stacked. But like, he's also been someone his entire life has worked out. But then if you're a young person, I don't think you really understand that like your body goes through like metamorphosis. So like when you're young, the reason when you're young you're really skinny, even if you're jacked, is because that's like the frame of a young boy or a young man, right? And then as you get older, you get like thicker and thicker as you grow. And I feel like what's happened sometimes is there's this weird, again, like talking about the internet and social media, the perception, like Joe Rogan, for example, is, I don't know, how old is Joe Rogan? Like 50 something, right? He's in his 50s. So even if Joe wasn't doing the TRT, he'd still be like thick because he's worked out and he's 50 years old. He's worked out his whole life. But since he's in the like mainstream zeitgeist and all these young people see him, they want to be thick like Joe. But they're like 40 years away from being that, unless you do a whole bunch of steroids and stuff, right? And I'm not Joe. I like Joe. It's maybe not the best example, but still, it's people like that that are older. Even actors, like actors now are in like their mid to late 30s, kind of 40s, when they're in these roles where they're these like huge stacked dudes, and then the youth want to, or at least I don't know, maybe they don't, but like it seems to me like they want to look like something that they're 25 years away from ever being, even if they do work out hard, because you're just small, right? Yeah.
Have you heard of, just while we're on this topic, have you heard of myostatin before?
Muscle statin? I don't know. I haven't.
No, myostatin. It's a hormone that I'm pretty sure it's a hormone, or I mean, like the Greek or Latin for statin is like level or like regulate or whatever. So any kind of statin is like a certain hormonal balance in the body. So basically, myostatin dictates to what percentage that entity is able to produce muscle mass.
Okay.
So myostatin varies both from species to species, but also interspecies. So there's certain breeds of like cows, bulls, dogs, that are just jacked by nature. You can think of like
Oh,
bulldogs
yeah,
and certain dog Dobermans.
They're like
there's
literally jacked.
literally jacked.
Yeah.
So these are animals and species and breeds with higher rates of myostatin, and
Okay.
amongst the human species of like whatever we are, Homo sapiens or whatever the fuck. There's also the spectrum and variety of myostatin. So certain people are able to build muscle a lot easier than others. And I believe that's also regardless of sex as well, because, you know, women have a harder time developing muscle in certain parts of their body than men. But I think even amongst just a exclusively female pool, there would also be a variance of myostatin levels.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Even with like, I can think of, I know so many female athletes like across different things. And then when you just say that and I think of them, like, for example, like Jess, dude, Jess is jacked as fuck. She's a climber though. So it's not same with Carmen, Jess, if you look at her upper body, you can see it in her upper body more. It's not that Carmen's not like jacked, but Carmen has fucking strong ass legs. But then there's some of the soccer player girls I play soccer with. They're more like they have big legs but like small upper bodies. But yeah, no, that's yeah. Okay, I was thinking of something as you say that I don't want to let slip from my mind, but I just have now.
Sorry, I took you on the myostatin tangent,
No,
but
I love that tangent every time.
if it's important, it will come back. That's kind of my like mantra lately, because I've had so many conversations over the last like year or two where I have a thought that I seemingly have some emotional attachment to. Like, it seems significant, and then it gets lost, and then the emotional attachment to it turns from like excitement to like frustration kind of thing. It's like, I was excited, now I'm lost. And yeah, I'm just trying to learn to just let that go. And, you know,
Yeah.
if it's really important enough, like, it'll come back.
It's funny you say that, and that's perfect to segue into something else, which is meditation. Yeah, that's what it's kind of like all in that same vein. I agree with you. Like, it is, because what I found, and I think that a weird way around it, this podcast, I think, has helped sort out my like brain, like internally, like with meditation, and it's led me to it. Because what I found was happening was like backdoor information of how the podcast runs. So first off, you come on and like you're just like, hey, like, what's up? We talk about who you are. So like, for example, the first time you were on, we literally were like interviewing you more, right? But now it's more we're just kicking it. So as of right now, I think I read one thing at the start, and then since then we've just been talking. So if that's, let's say that's just how it goes, that's fine. Like,
Yep.
No problem.
Feel free to obviously like mention any points you have, especially if there's certain topics that seem particularly interesting. But I'm also, I'm pretty good at, you know, just kind of riffing and talking. And I spoke with my grandma on the phone yesterday, and she told me she talked with my aunt recently on the phone, but it was only for like 5 minutes. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, just that you guys are talking in general is great, just to connect. But they, you know, they obviously have a finite amount of things to talk about. And despite that my grandma's like 90 years old, and her, you know, mental energy and everything only allows me to have a certain level of depth of conversation with her. Like, we still talked for almost 40 minutes, which was really nice.
That's amazing.
Nice to chat with her.
Yeah, no, because it's so what happens basically is, as I have thoughts in my head throughout the day, whether it be from me listening to something or talking to someone, whatever, if I get a chance, I put it down in my notes. And some of them are hilarious, because I'll put it down and I'll be like this, like, Bob under the door nailing it. And that in the moment is like super nice, easy slang for me to remember, like, oh yeah, that. But then when I read it, I'm like, what the fuck is that? But anyhow, most of
I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, like it'll be like that, and you'll be like, I have no
Is
clue.
a carpentry reference?
But then
maybe
like,
sexual.
but so then I've like started writing down all these like notes, right? But then what I found was happening is, to your point of like it comes back if it's important. I had all these thoughts and I could never find that, like, let's say I'm in the middle of a treatment and I'm like, oh, I wonder about this. But it's like 15 minutes into the treatment. I'm not just going to stop treating them, go on my phone and like write a note in my phone like, I wonder about this or that, right? So you have to be able to like hold that thought. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember one thought that I want to write for my podcast. I'm not going to spend the next 45 minutes being like just repeating it in your head, right? And so I was finding it was really hard. And now that I've been able to meditate and my mind's been like clear, stuff can start coming back and I remember it easier.
Nice.
Anyhow, I didn't realize how much into meditation you were. I feel like, can you just talk about meditation?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like, to be totally transparent, I wouldn't say I'm like extensively experienced in it nor knowledgeable in it or anything. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like all credit goes to my dad in this department. He told me that when he was like, before I was born, I think he was in his late 20s, he said, and he was just walking down the street and he saw like a advertisement like stapled to a telephone pole or some shit, and it had like a transcendental meditation, like pull, grab one of these little things for a phone number and like join the info session or whatever. And for whatever combination of reasons, he just thought to himself like, oh, that seemed interesting, sufficiently open mind, and then he went and checked it out and was interested. And yeah, so my dad's been doing transcendental meditation for like over 30 years. And then, yeah, I remember I was telling you on Wednesday, I think like a few times growing up, I would wake up early in the morning. The house I grew up in was 3 floors. So my sister lived on the top floor. My parents lived on the middle floor, and my bedroom was in the bottom floor. And so like I came upstairs and my dad would be like silently sitting on the couch with his eyes closed with like impeccable posture at like 5:30 a.m. and it'd be this weird like rigor mortis type situation where you're like, what the fuck's going on? But yeah, I also like never interrupted him or anything, not out of fear of him getting upset, but just out of, I guess, respect. And just there was obviously some energy exuded from it that I could tell there was, like some kind of peacefulness going on, for lack of better words. Even though I'm like a 6-year-old or something, I could tell like, oh, I don't want to interrupt whatever's happening. Yeah, and so when I was a late teenager, I think I was 16, 17, and my sister was 19, and my mom was, I don't know what she would have been, like, in her late 40s or something. But my dad paid for all 3 of us to go through the training for transcendental meditation. So unlike a lot of other meditations, TM has a fairly high degree of standardization, and there is a classical training for it where you have to pay to be taught by a certified teacher. And there's a university down in the United States. I think it's in Ohio or Iowa.
No way.
Forgive me for anyone that does know where it is, because those 2 states are very likely not where it is. But it's somewhere down in the States.
I can guarantee it's not our listeners. You have
to. And yeah, and so you have to go down there after like just taking the basic training, and you have to go through a course to become a certified teacher to teach other people how to do it, kind of thing. So and then so my dad paid for me and my mom and sister to go through the training, and then we have some family friends that are into it. It's also the same kind of meditation that the Beatles did, if anyone's familiar with like the Beatles and Yellow Submarine and their trip to India and learning meditation.
Is that okay?
That was the same kind of meditation that they learned.
I just assumed it was the acid, but I guess that was probably part of it all too,
Yeah, there's definitely drugs involved. I mean, if they were doing TM with any notable like figure in the space, I would assume that the like person would encourage them to just experience it sober or whatever, because it is its own experience. And then you know you can save.
That's what I found with anyone. Sorry to interrupt. That anyone that's been like within the community of meditation is if I ask them about drugs in it, they're not like don't do drugs with it, but they're like they'd encourage you to not use drugs as your like way to get into the experience, which I think is it makes sense on one level, just because I feel like it's important to try and get there without having any like stimulant to help you, but it's also cool because it speaks to how they what is this?
Electrolytes from Japan.
Whoa.
It's like Gatorade, but yummier and better and
Kid,
less
this
sugar.
is so cool.
Pocari Sweat.
This looks like, just for the listeners, picture very similar to, I'm holding very similar to a Coke can, but it's blue. And then it says Pocari Sweat, and it's an ions. Thank you. This just looks cool.
Yeah, Adrian's also, he's familiar with them from his trip to Japan, but Siobhan and I just really like them. They're way lower sugar than, you know, Powerade or Gatorade, and we can get them at a very competitive price over at Osaka at Park Royal.
No way.
It's one of the blessings of living in a big city, is having access to all these different things, and obviously consumerism needs to be like moderated, but while you enjoy what you enjoy, it's sweet having access to it.
It's kind of weird how at this point I feel like living in the city, like any major city around the world, really means it's like, can I actually have one too? Mm-hmm. Living in a major city, I feel like it's this weird thing where you're like, how do I explain this? You want to go see the world and experience somewhere new, right? So you live in Vancouver and you're like, yo, I want to go to LA, or I want to go to London, or I want to go to Dubai, just anywhere, like any major city. It's like you're comfortable with the idea of leaving to a new country that's a new culture, but at the same time, it's not truly the culture, because like here, like what is, like, let's say the Vancouver culture? Well, there's one here now, there's like air quotes a culture, but it's really like a city culture of like where you can get Pocari Sweat and you can get Indian food and you can get like everything. And then so it's like at this point, any major city you go to is basically, you could probably, I'd assume, get every major thing there if it's a major city. You know what I mean? Like you go to New York, you probably can find Pocari Sweats there now.
Yeah.
Maybe not America at the moment, but like you get the essence of what I'm saying.
I totally get the essence of what you're saying, and my answer to it respectfully is like yes and no kind of thing.
Okay.
Like we're particularly lucky in Vancouver in the same sense as like the amount of like high quality like Japanese restaurants that we have here compared to what you might find in like Calgary or like Whitehorse or Quebec City or like these other major cities, or Toronto even, like these major cities in Canada. But so because of our proximity to Asia, and we're the first place in Canada that people from Asia hit.
Right. I guess it's kind of like Hawaii. That's why. Like,
yeah, exactly. The Japanese population in Hawaii kind of thing.
So, but like
similar to that.
But like, you don't think if you go to New York, you could find good Japanese?
I think you could find good Japanese food.
Yeah.
But when just looking at Canada, it's such a big, wide country. Like our country's a chode. So like
when you think of it, you can't argue with it.
Can't argue with a chode. Never have, never will. But like the culture and the people on the east coast of Canada are more this like, oh yeah, just taking the car to the garage, and it's like this like European influence because Europe is more proximal to the east coast of Canada, right. and then the west coast of Canada, we have a shit ton of like Persian people and a shit ton of Chinese people,
yeah,
and like They just happen to be proximate to the west coast of Canada.
Okay, that makes
kind
a
of
ton
thing.
of actually a ton of sense. And quite frankly, I love Asian everything. Like that's
Oh,
like
yeah.
so it's like like so many things of
And
my
Persian
child.
people.
Well, yeah,
I
like
like them both a lot.
No, I like both the people, but I mean like specifically like Asian, like the culture of like I don't know, like anime, sushi. I know those are very generic things, but
Those are all both Japanese
Japanese
as well, so not
okay,
representative of all Asians.
No, but
I got you, Asians. Don't worry.
I like all the Asians, the Japanese. That's it. No,
Oh no.
no. Like I like
'Cause
Thai
they stole
food,
their
but like
alphabet from that.
all the things. Like so many of my friends are Filipino. My like stuff like that. It's like I like that culture. Just it's more interesting to me because I guess like you said we grew up in it more, and I didn't really realize that.
Yeah, and also there's like the word epistemology, if you've heard of that. It's
I have because I went to Catholic school, but I can't. Does it have to do with? I can't remember what it has to.
not
do
a
with.
religious word, but epistemology is just like the study of knowledge. So it's like
Okay, I
it's-
would have heard it because it would have been they probably would have used like epistemology of like of religion or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so,
It could have
okay.
been used in the context of religion for
Yeah.
sure. And it's just kind of like, I guess, like the epistemological background of the indigenous people of North America
Okay.
versus the epistemological background of the like Viking European people or something like that. So you could
Right.
just kind of understand, like, oh yeah, like their ancestors just had different lives, understood different things, perceived of things differently, communicated things differently, like just like different.
Right.
Sorry, what were we talking about? Why did I talk about epistemology? What were
I don't. Okay, well, we were talking about because I was saying how there was. I like the Asian like.
Thank you.
ancestry, and
Okay,
there's all
okay.
the
Thank you.
Japanese.
Holy fuck. Yeah, this is one of those. If it's important, it'll come back. And thankfully, I've got my good friend Derek here to remind me. But where I was going with the epistemology thing was just that, because of the complementary nature of the other society's philosophy, youth of a particular area are not so coincidentally infatuated with the philosophy of the other side of the world. So Western kids are always fascinated with Eastern philosophy, as I have been, because Western philosophy is so implicit in our day-to-day life, and it's what we've grown up with and what we've lived in and what we've seen and breathed. And Eastern philosophy sounds exotic and different and complementary and new, and so we're very infatuated with it. And vice versa, Eastern children and teenagers will potentially, take a strong liking to Western philosophy for its complementary nature.
What is Western philosophy really?
I mean, Western philosophy involves a bunch of different things.
Some dudes with guns dropping bombs.
Well, I mean, I feel like, and pertaining to our work, not that we're talking about massage or anything, but just like in my mind, one of the key foundational pieces to Western philosophy is like Rene Descartes' like dualism.
Okay.
So Rene Descartes was like a French mathematician and philosopher, and he came up or coined, he may have not come up with it on his own, but he coined the concept of dualism that we refer to today as Cartesian dualism because of his last name, Descartes, Cartesian.
So what is it? What is dualism?
Dualism is the concept that the mind and body are separate things.
Okay.
And so other like cultures and epistemological backgrounds didn't conceive of or adopt dualism, right? Like the mind and body are the same thing. Like they're two sides of the same coin.
So would you say like for example a cliche like the mind body connection is that a thought of dualism, or is that the opposite? It is dualism.
Yeah, well, I
Because
mean,
you're
just
acknowledging they're different? Okay.
yeah, and yeah, so I mean, I feel like that, even though that doesn't necessarily show up super like explicitly in various forms of Western philosophy, like I feel like that really like lays a bit of a bedrock for like how we understand life and consciousness and other things, because it's like, oh yeah, like the mind and body are separate things, so like consciousness is this like helium balloon floating above, it's tied to this rock, and the rock's the brain, but it's its own thing, and like we're just perceiving of them differently. And so my understanding of like the consequences of Cartesian dualism is that it's led people to look at our bodies like cars.
Yeah, well, okay. It's, I don't know, that's so, it's crazy you brought that up, because that's a thing that I've been like struggling with our job specifically, is we are put to like Western philosophy, I guess we'll say, like you've said for this, is like we've taken it apart. So we have our 12 systems. I want to say there's 13 now, because is fascia a system now?
Well, the mesentery just got discovered as a new organ, which is a subtype of the digestive tract.
Mesentery, okay. But I swear that now when you look up, there used to be 12 systems, and it's like the musculoskeletal, pulmonary, cardiovascular, and blah blah. There's 12, but then there's integumentary. I'm not going to list them all, but I think I can if we go. But
That's a good word I haven't heard in a long time.
Integumentary,
yeah.
And lymphatic. I'm trying to list it, but anyhow, so there's either 12 or 13, and if there's 13, it's because they've finally classified fascia as an organ or a system, pardon, which is long overdue. If it's not, it's crazy. It's still not. Like I think the only people that I don't know. There's that it's a different story. I'm not gonna get into a whole thing about that, but
It's a fascinating tale.
but what it does is, so it's really cool that we have these 12, 13 systems that we know, so as much as we don't know anything about the body, like there's still things being discovered. We know so much too at the same time, right? Like it's not like we're like the myth of we don't know anything about the human body is like, no, we're gonna always keep finding out new things, but we know so much. Like let's not pretend like we don't know so much about the body now, right? Like we can go on molecular levels and what we know, like ion channel pumps and all this stuff, and that's all really good. But it also is, I think this is kind of where the thought of like we don't know anything comes in. So because we have these systems that work like a car together, it takes away from the fact that we are just one system, right? So it doesn't mean that you can't figure it out, like, oh, well, this interacts with this, so this can happen. But you'll always, I think, if you have that analytical way of breaking it up, I think there's a switch that you can't, like, there's a wall you can't jump over, because you're like, well, no, there's 12 systems. No, it's one thing. But those are so contradictory that, like, so anyhow, I just feel like to like dualism, it's just interesting you saying that. And then I've been thinking a lot about that, how like we do have it separated, but it needs to be together, but it's also has to be separated so we can understand everything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just it feels like so many of the things we talk about, like,
sorry, the Pocari Sweat's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's nice. It's just like a light little lemon lime touch to it, like
it's sweet, but not like you're like drinking sugar. It's just a little.
Yeah, the like English translation of the like Japanese words is particularly hilarious. I feel like they didn't really console an English-based person. It says, Pocari Sweat is a healthy beverage that smoothly supplies the lost water and electrolytes during perspiration, with the appropriate density and electrolytes close to that of the human body fluid. It can be easily absorbed into the body. I I was like, this is fucking like coroner shit. Like, close to that of your own body fluid.
That's the last thing you want to hear is you're drinking replenishes body fluids.
Yeah. Yeah. We ran some experiments to find out what the viscosity of human body fluid was, and we did our best to emulate it.
Okay, I have one from my list here.
List it.
That I want you to. So I just found this out today.
Listerine.
Did you know that Microsoft? It makes me sad. It makes sense, but it makes me sad. Did you know that Microsoft just discovered a new state of matter?
Like no, like their quantum chip, Majorana? No.
Yeah.
Majorana 1.
Majorana 1. So there is liquid, solid, gas, and whatever this. It's not called Majorana. That's the chip, yes, but like whatever this quantum. It's a quantum state, but it doesn't make sense to like. You know what I think is crazy? So they've discovered a new state of matter. We only know about gas, liquid, and solid. We only know about those. You and I. That's it. They just found a new one. My daughter's gonna understand that better than you and I will. I don't know. Maybe you will, but for me, like I'm gonna look into it and see because I'm interested. But like, doesn't like there's only 3 states of matter. There's not anymore apparently, and it's a quantum state. But the thing is, it's the matter is in a quantum place. So I don't really understand what that means. Like, so, like, I don't know. It's just crazy and the thing that makes it even weirder is I feel like just uncomfortable knowing that Microsoft discovered it. Like, I wanted like some dude to be like, I discovered this. And I'm like, no, Microsoft did. That's why my allegiance is to Costco.
Yeah. Fucking those rotisserie chickens and those hot dogs are just like the goats.
Have you had a chicken bake before?
No, those are from the United States, Costco's.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've never had one.
But go.
Yeah.
Don't mean to sidetrack your
I was
thought.
gonna say the nice thing about the Majorana 1 chip is that it is named the name Majorana comes from like a quantum physicist from a while ago. So even just the name itself like is an homage to like a real person, which is nice.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't, especially with the way headlines are like sensationalized to optimize attention grabbing and stuff nowadays, like I really doubt Microsoft discovered a new state of matter in the same sense of like someone discovering that like gas is a state of matter or whatever.
Okay.
It's probably my guess. My guess is that it's more akin to like someone discovering like dark matter. And it's like, oh, Microsoft discovered dark matter. And it's like, cool, what is that? Oh, yeah, no clue. Oh, well, what's the significance of it? Oh, well, there's some, like, gravitational consequences, and we see, like, the influence of it in certain areas. You can't really measure it or see it or anything, but, like, we can kind of, like, calculate that it's there to different proportions in different parts of the universe. And it's like, okay, cool, yeah. So we have like pretty much zero fucking understanding of what that is.
That's what you know what I find so weird about the quantum realm is it just doesn't like it's theoretical physics, right? Like I guess that it's real, right? Like that's what the assumption is now because it's all working and doing this. But it's so like you just have to like okay, like it was some dude comes up to me and is like, yo, so within the smallest thing that's ever been discovered, there's a whole realm that blah, 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 this and this happens. You just have to be like...
Horton hears a what?
Yeah, like it's... I don't know, it's really weird. What's his name? I think it's Sagan. Carl Sagan.
Yeah, Carl Sagan.
One of his
rest in peace.
His last... Yeah, rest in peace, Carl Sagan. He's one of his last... Or his very last live, like, video interview. He talked about how... his fear for the future was that science gets so smart that no one can keep them in check, so you don't know it's true. And it's really what's happened now, like with the quantum realm stuff. You just have to take what these people at the very top say is the truth, because it's so complex that, like, surely, like, you and I couldn't understand what's going on for them to be like, no, this is how the universe is. But the problem with that is, like, I know there's other people around, but it can get out of control because of egos and all this stuff. So it's like a weird thing where everything's so complex that you can't tell if it's true. You just have to take it as, like, you're like, okay. I think you'd have to listen to him say it. He obviously said it more, like, beautifully.
Yeah, no. I get what you're saying for sure. And, like, yeah, Carl Sagan, yeah, legendary dude.
He's super cool.
He had a really awesome TV show. I forget what it was called. Wonders of the Universe.
I think it's the Cosmos, isn't it?
Cosmos, yeah, Cosmos. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Wonders of the Universe is Brian Cox from BBC. But yeah, him and his wife, I forget his wife's name, and we're not looking on the internet, so I apologize. In this moment, I'm a gambling man, so I think his wife's name was like Nancy Sagan. That's probably fucking wrong. I apologize to both Carl and his wife. I really don't remember her name, but anyways, they were both either tasked with or asked to or whatever. They drew the like visual symbols and diagram that went on the side of, I think it was like the NASA Voyager shuttle back in either the early 90s or late 80s. And so they drew a diagram of like the human body and like a couple other things, so that way if any extraterrestrial found that shuttle, they would hopefully be able to understand some symbology. And in particular, there's a circle that represents Earth, and then there's a bunch of different lines coming out from that circle with little dots at the end. And what each of those dots are pulsars, which are like, pulsars are the brightest thing in the universe, and they're like stars that are spinning at like, if I'm not mistaken, like thousands of revolutions per second. So you can just think of like something that has the magnitude and the mass and the scale of a star just rotating at like a absolutely insane speed. And because of that, it gives off like immaculate light. And because of the immaculate light give off, they are used to triangulate things in the universe. So the diagram on the side of the shuttle shows the Earth's triangulation from all these different pulsars, hoping that extraterrestrials would be able to locate Earth. It's
crazy that you're that smart to be able to like be like, look, and like draw that. That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't know, just like, I don't know, that's just beyond me. That blows my mind that you'd think that.
Yeah, I like, you know, I have favorite everythings. I have favorite comedians and stuff, but definitely if I had like a list of like top 25 humans of all time, like Carl Sagan would be in it. I have a lot of love for that guy.
Yeah, he's sweet. I wouldn't pretend to know the most about him, but every time I see anything that he says, I'm always like, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
He says like the most intense thing, and I was like, yeah, me too. I also think that. And you're like, say it, Derek. No, but I think that too.
But sorry, what was the thing that you were mentioning him about? You were just that he was like talking about.
Oh, well, I was just talking about how like science has got like crazy because like how do you,
it's gonna outsmart people. And
yeah, and I don't even think he was saying it like the top scientists were tricking us like maliciously, like it's like it's like we're talking about the quantum realm, and it could be 100% wrong, but we've just been led here and we have to believe them because they're like the smartest and brightest, but we can't actually check them because it's so complex.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And I mean on that end of it, like whenever things are at different scales of like mass or whatever, I don't think mass is even the right word, just size is a better word. The laws of physics apply like slightly differently depending on what scale of size you're at. because if you take you or me and drop you off like 100-story building, we're like, that's like dropping like an egg off a 100-story building. Like, yeah, there's no chance of survival.
Right.
But
Imagine
when you
an
drop,
egg survived. If you died. You're like, this is a tough egg.
this moment brought to you by Cadbury eggs.
Not genetically modified since 1992.
Purchased from Costco. But like when you take an ant and you like drop it off a 100-story building, because of the mass and scale of it, it can only reach a certain speed, a certain terminal velocity, as it's called. And so like certain things, you know, that's why like cats can like fall so far without dying. And well, one of the reasons, they also have this crazy like elastic reflex in their back that you can like drop them upside down and their body just naturally like turns over. It's fucked.
Yeah.
But also the size and weight and scale of them is also part of the physics of what happens when they hit the ground after a certain amount of falling. And so an ant like just doesn't have the weight or the mass to reach a terminal velocity. So you can drop an ant off pretty much as high a fucking thing as you can conceive of, and it's just gonna like, you know, fall down and hit the ground. And
dude, we watched Whistler. We were doing the bungee jumping there.
Oh, cool.
And have you done it or seen it?
Siobhan and I have done the zip lining, but not the bungee jumping.
Okay, well, the bungee jumping, there's just like giant green bridge over the river, right? And so when you're up there, you'd see like, it was so random. We were up there for so long. Like it's a long story, but basically there's a support group and there was like 50 of them, and people would like walk up and be like, I gotta say goodbye. Like literally things like, I gotta say goodbye to the girl that I loved in high school and she never talked to me, and I've loved her for the last 10 years and it's time to get over her. And they'd like jump off the bridge and all the people would be like, Opa, and clap for them. Like it was that.
Yeah, like a cathartic.
Yeah, but it was like 50 people doing it, and it took forever. And so we were sitting there, and I watched this rat or this mouse, I think it was a mouse because it was tiny, run up on this goddamn bridge, jump straight off it, float down, and you'd see it float down, and then all of a sudden you'd see it eventually scurry back up the cliff face over, and I asked them, and they're like, yeah, I don't know why, but there's a whole bunch of mice that just jump off this bridge, land, like it doesn't kill them, and then they just run back up, and you just watch and be like,
yeah. So like the whole reason that I'm mentioning that is like, you know, we were talking about like the different systems in the body before, and there's those levels of organization. I think it's like CCTOSO is the acronym. It's like chemical, cellular, tissue, organ, system, organism. CCTOSO. That's like from smallest to biggest, the gradient.
Right.
And so like the smallest in our body that we bother learning about or studying is the first C, which is chemical. Right. But then you can zoom into chemicals. You can which we do. We did organic chemistry in high school, or in our RMT program, and like you get into what is chemistry and stuff like that. So just and then the whole like Horton Hears a Who idea of like there's different universes at different scales almost kind of thing, and like if you are a mold spore, like you're gonna be existing on a scale of the universe that is very different from like a human or an elephant, which is also very different from like a star or something like that. And just all of that, I'm basically just trying to give us context to say that like I'm not really worried about whatever they discover quantumly, because until they develop some technology that utilizes that quantum knowledge in some manipulative way that's not to the general public's advantage or whatever, I don't really have anything to worry about. It's just nerds in an office, very similar to like scientists in an office studying dark matter. It's like, oh well, we just have to take what they have to say about dark matter for face value. It could be malicious, but really like they barely know shit about it.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, and even just to like the thought of scale, like it doesn't matter to us.
Yeah. Like oh, okay, well if someone really like hires these evil Nazi German scientists to develop some quantum cannon that just like turns people into a hot fudge sundae or whatever, like you're fucked anyways. There's no way to prepare for that anyway.
Yeah.
So like don't worry about it.
Yeah, they like, can you imagine? They're like, we're gonna kill everyone, and their thing it turns you into hot fudge, and you're like, that's a crazy way that the world ended.
My hot fudge vest just came in the mail too.
Okay, have you? This is one. It's unfortunate in a way because I kind of wanted to look it up so we could watch it, but it's okay. We don't have to. We can still just talk about it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell everyone to look up the 1X robot. Okay, have you heard of it?
Do you want me to look it up on my phone?
Sure, yeah, look it up on your phone just to see what it's about, okay? Because the watch the video on it.
1X robot?
Yeah, like one.
Is it Tesla's like robot thing?
I think it might be, but I just noticed the 1X. But when I watched the video of it, it could have been that one. It's
it's its own company, 1X Technologies.
Yeah, that's the one there. So just watch this video here, okay? And just bear with us, community. We're gonna just go on a little pause here. Go watch the 1X video here. We're gonna watch and get right back to you. Okay, welcome back. I hope you watched that video. So there's the video. That's one of the videos, but the one there, I'm gonna try and find it later. It's literally the person's walking around their house, and the robot's following them, doing every single task, like vacuuming, laundry, like making sweet love to the wife. No. and I don't know, just seeing that, just think of that the future is happening. Like, did you ever think that would actually be a thing, robots like this? Like, I genuinely, like, okay, let's say maybe you asked me 5 years ago, I think I would have said yes, but like growing up, I thought it was impossible, the thought of a robot being an actual thing we would interact with. I just genuinely thought it was like sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on to what extent their complexity is or whatever. Like, you know, like I remember, I can't remember when Roombas came out, but you know, just this like, oh, this little round vacuum thing that just kind of lives its own life, like something you'd see from the Jetsons, and you don't even have to hold it. It just kind of moseys around and cleans your shit. It's like, holy fuck, the future's here. So I'm open to like, or always been like, you know, habituated to the idea of like some autonomous robot fulfilling some like household cleanliness task or whatever, you know, like you don't have to create a humanoid type form to get that done necessarily, which I think is also maybe like part of the like not moot, but like, and this is just a random hypothetical thought, but hypothetically, like half the shit that people are designing human-shaped robots to do don't need to be human-shaped, and maybe the task could be done better. Maybe it has to be a more specific task, like, oh, this is my laundry robot, this is my dishing robot,
right? Yeah.
This is my, versus like you have one robot that does them all. Like I could understand if you can do that with a human robot, do them all, that makes sense, but if it can't really do them all optimally, then it's like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of situation. So it's almost better to just like have individual things to do the thing properly.
Well, yeah, I wonder too if it's people, they think people would be more comfortable with it being a human than a robot. Because I agree with you. You're right. Like when you think of it, why do we, especially when you watch the video, that thing doesn't look like it's this like thing that's walking around like you or me. It looks like it's like doing the task, but very slowly and like mechanically. Whereas you surely could have a machine that doesn't have to be human, and it could, like you said, like do the laundry and stuff. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it makes sense that human-like would be a multi-purpose machine. But at the same time, I wonder if that's like what we're conditioned to believe, and not in a like conspiratorial, like they condition us, but like we've just always kind of thought of robots being a humanoid. So when we make robots, we're like, well, it's got to be a humanoid because that's what a robot is.
Yeah, well, and I forget the term, but the term just means like whatever the species is, if they have the mental cognitive power to conceive of a deity, of a god, they usually visualize the god in their own form, right? So
Right.
humans are like, oh yeah, Jesus is like a white guy with a beard, and like if turtles could conceive of God, it'd probably look like a fucking turtle for them.
Yeah, yeah,
That
absolutely,
kind of thing.
absolutely, yeah. He'd have like dreads, but he's just a turtle with dreads. They're like, that's
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Biblical biblical turtle. I just have to pee really bad,
Yeah,
so I'll be
yeah.
right back.
And we are back. All right, so I want to bring attention to this. I wanted to actually start the podcast talking about this. So, ironically, an hour and 15 minutes in, we get to what we were supposed to start the podcast with.
Story of my life.
Yeah, your men's group. We spoke about it last time, but I feel like the podcast at this point, we were using lapel mics, and it was just a little like the way it was done, we were just kind of like sitting there, and I don't know, I just want to bring light to your men's group because some of my friends did actually ask about it. So I feel like it's just why don't we just go revisit the men's group?
Yeah. I mean, I'm part of an organization called Arca Brotherhood, formerly known as Samurai Brotherhood. So just to say that like it's not I didn't start it or it's not mine or anything. I'm part of it, and I'm a captain. So there's a bunch of different squads within the Brotherhood. The majority of them are in-person squads, and each squad has their own like totem animal.
Okay.
So like the first squad I was ever part of was Wolf Squad, and after
sweet.
Wolf Squad was together for like 4 or 5 years or something, we split up into Timber Wolf and Dire Wolf squads.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
like subclasses kind of thing. So yeah, when I became a captain, I got to like pick my own totem animal, and of course you can't pick something that's already been chosen, and there's a pretty good amount of different squads, so a decent amount of the like, you know, kind of low-hanging fruit type animal you might think of.
Yeah, so like I'd imagine Bear Squad is probably taken.
Exactly, yeah, both grizzly and polar and all the subtypes. Yeah. So I picked Shark Squad, and there was no sharks. There was no sharks yet of any kind.
That's actually a crazy squad to have not been picked.
Yeah.
That's Apex.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and sharks are like older than fucking trees.
Yeah.
And like they've been around for so long. And,
Fuck you, trees.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean that. But
You don't even make that much oxygen. The phytoplankton in the ocean, there's way more photosynthesizing than you'll ever do.
Damn straight. That's why we put our garbage in the ocean.
Talk to my Uncle Tony. He'll hook you up with some algae. But yeah, so I mean, I got to choose the animal, and with another man that I originally like co-led the squad with. So we kind of spent like a couple weeks like spitballing back and forth about what would be a good animal, and we landed on shark. Yeah, and for me, like, I almost drowned when I was like 2 or 3 years old in like a pool or something. And so I always had these like shark nightmares growing up. Like I would literally just have like a lot of nightmares of like me being underwater and a big great white shark. Like I could see it off in the distance underwater, you know, it'd see like, oh, and then it'd see me, and then it would just like come towards me rapidly kind of thing.
I hate that. When I go swimming in water where you like it's deep and you can't see in the distance, that's like my fear, is that thought.
Yeah, and so I would just like wake up like, you know, as it would come towards me with its teeth open or whatever, and I just like wake up all the time. And yeah, I haven't delved in too deep in Freudian, you know, dream analytics or any of that shit, but my best guess is that like, oh yeah, my nervous system went through this experience where like it almost died underwater, so it like has this disproportionately high fear for underwater events kind
Makes
of thing.
sense.
Yeah, and so
and a great
sharks,
white and shit,
predator
like
of underwater,
easy.
Yeah, so I grew up with like shark nightmares, and then I remember like, I can't remember what age I was, 6 or 7 or something, but there was just kind of this critical point where subconscious me reached a level of fed upness or whatever, and I guess I decided to like punch the shark in the nose or the face or something when it came towards me.
Nice.
Because I'm gonna die anyways. Fuck you. And no more shark nightmares after that kind of thing.
Did
Just,
something
went
happen
away.
consciously, or was it just all subconsciously?
I think it was all dreaming and sleeping, as far as I'm aware. Yeah.
Like
'Cause
you
I was
weren't
so
one day
young.
like you like no, like and then you went to sleep and it happened.
Yeah, I think I was just like dreaming, and the same dream that happened probably hundreds of times before that point happened, but instead of just like waking up in a scared state of like, oh, I got eaten, it was like, oh no, I just like punched the thing. I don't know if at that moment I would have woken up and been like, oh, or if I would have just stayed sleeping. I really don't know, but I definitely remember there was some critical moment where just like my subconscious's response to this fictitious shark coming at me like changed, and that changed the nature of the energy that led to the recurring shark
It's
thing.
so crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I don't want to like I would never like ruin my friend's experience, but he had like a really bad trauma in his life, and he basically went through so much stuff to like fix it, but he had this like recurring thing of being on a floating raft in the middle of the ocean, and like it was so crazy to hear like how he like overcame that, but like the story behind it and like all of like why everything was happening. I don't know, because I've never had like any crazy reoccur, or at least I haven't dreamt in a long time of it, or at least I don't know, I have to dream, like I think everyone dreams. It's just like I don't know, I think it's women in general, when they wake up from a dream they remember it for so long, not forever, but like for so long, whereas at least for me, I think if I have a dream I forget it within seconds of being up. My partner wakes up and every day has very, very, very vivid dreams. And I find women consistently have way more vivid dreams. Like if you ask them, they'll probably be like, oh, well, this happened yesterday. And I don't have that experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm sure there's some difference between men and women, and just like the neurochemical slash hormonal profile within the brain during the sleep state and stuff like that. And then there's also like some things that people think of as sleep aids, like alcohol or cannabis. They help people feel tired in order to fall asleep, but both alcohol and cannabis, for example, are objectively shown to undermine REM sleep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's not a coincidence that like people that consume cannabis regularly report maybe less dreaming, and then maybe when they report going cold turkey, there can be this like you know, report of, I'm saying the word report way too much, but there can be this report of increased dream content, like, oh wow, my dreams are so vivid. And then with alcohol, like there's this condition, and a beer, interestingly enough, called delirious tremens. And delirious tremens is basically when like someone is an alcoholic and the alcohol's deprived their brain of REM sleep for so long that the brain pushes REM sleep onto their waking consciousness, and they end up like hallucinating in real life. So the whole
That's
like
got to be extreme.
white elephants thing, that's like delirious tremens.
I've never heard of white elephants.
Yeah, there's a beer called Delirious Tremens, and it has like I think a pink elephant on the bottle of it. And yeah, so it's just interesting that so many people use the both or one or the other substances for help me sleep better, quote unquote, and really
I mean, I use both, but I wouldn't use it to say that I help sleep better.
yeah, it's
but
just
that makes
like
sense. That
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah,
it's just good to know, like not that it doesn't work for people in whatever way they need it to, but it's just kind of like, yeah, people should just know all the different effects of whatever they're doing or consuming, and that way they can make the best decisions about like, oh, this combination of things will optimize my life.
Well, I find for me, alcohol is the one that makes it like, like if I drink, it affects me for 3 days. The only thing is the effect is different. So like, let's say, I don't know, let's say you go out for a weekend and get hammered. We all know what that feels like you're hungover next day, that kind of thing. But let's say I have like 2 beers in a day. I find for the next 2 or 3 days, a lot of my productivity, thank you, has gone down because of those beers.
Yep, I feel that.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there's also the like I feel like university probably like best exemplified the whole alcohol sleep relationship for me, cuz like my alcohol tolerance was probably peak in like late high school. Every Friday night, me and the boys in Qualicum Beach. Shout out to the boys in Qualicum Beach. I moved there in grade 11, and they're super friendly, welcoming, and just
Let's
like
go,
invited me.
Qualcomm boys.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
just invited me into their friends group, and
That's
like
dope.
as if I grew up there, kind of thing.
Oh,
So
that's
like
super
yeah,
dope, especially in grade 11. That's a tough transition time to just have to move.
yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor and Troy and Justin and Sean and Matt and yeah,
Nice.
all the different guys. Anyways, we would go drinking at Taylor and the two twins, Taylor and Troy, at their house every Friday night. And the craziest thing about it was their father, Brad, is a ex-alcoholic of like 30 years. So he is like dead sober, like hardcore ex-alcoholic. And every Friday night, he has to listen to a bunch of young boys hooting and hollering from being shit-faced. And usually every week has to come down at some point and be like, hey guys, it's whatever time, like we got to keep it down, or the police are outside with another noise complaint, or like, you know,
you
like
guys were going hard.
yeah, like I just don't, you know, me having lived the life I have and being like, oh yeah, if I have to cut something out of my life, I have to cut it out of my life, I can't be around it. So just him like both being around these young men drinking excessively and also being so patient with us and everything. You know, in hindsight especially, it's just like, you know, dude is a saint. But you know, we got used to the point where we would drink like a 2-6 of like Captain Morgan's or something, like each person, like in a night.
That's insane.
So
Because,
like,
dude, I had similar, but not the exact same. Yo, that one was. Yeah.
this is
It was empty.
for the record.
Yeah, okay, like.
Nothing happened.
So, dude, okay, first off, I could never finish a 2-6 when we were young. I always would. If I finished a 2-6, I was like 100. Well, no, I couldn't finish it because I'd be dead before. Where some people finish it. Everyone was dead if you finished one.
Oh yeah.
But like, I could never finish one still. But we would do. I just remember 19. I was the first to turn 19. So get this, I turned 19. I'm of all my friends. I go to the freaking bar, and the two guys with me, one of them is jacked, so he's like a big body, and the other one has long hair and a beard like none other. And we go into the place, and I'm the only person that gets ID'd, so they're underage drinking, and it was the whole point was I was supposed to go there and be like, ha, have some pop.
Right.
So and then I get ID'd, and I have to. So they ID me, like, which was fine because it's my birthday, but they didn't ID my friends, and they're underage, and like, so you're like, God damn it, that's so weak. I can't even remember why I started telling that story. I had a point before I started telling that story.
Just like drinking age buddies.
Oh yeah. So we used to go to my friend Zach's house, his parents' basement, and that he had a little cottage in the back in the basement that was like his areas, and I would show up with a whole bunch of Mickey's of vodka, and then a whole bunch of the like 500 or 600 milliliters of Pepsi. I think there'd be like 6 or 7 of them, and we'd all just sit there, and we would chip golf balls onto like a little sticky mat thing, and watch How I Met Your Mother, and just slam back a Mickey. And it was like nothing though. Like, it was quick. It was, you're just like, knock it back, watch it, it's gone. And now thinking, I'm like, Jesus Christ, that was fucked up that you would do that. And it was, like you said, every single Friday.
Yeah. It's definitely crazy to think of. Like, I mean, alcohol's kind of unique in that it's the one, like, seemingly the one drug that especially young men end up taking a pride in having a high tolerance of, because the implication of not having a decently high tolerance of is that you're going to be that dude that passes out at the house party that gets a dick drawn on your forehead with a Sharpie. So it's like there's this like weird pride taken in like handling your liquor or whatever, right? So it's like it's one drug you grow up with that you're like, yeah, I gotta learn to like consume a lot of that and handle it. So then you like fucking strength train with your buddies, so to speak, and yeah, you get to this weird point where you're like, oh yeah, I just drink a whole like 375 or 750 milliliters of hard liquor casually in a night, and it's like crazy.
So crazy. It's so crazy.
And in university, you would do that. I remember buying countless bottles of 2.6s of Alberta Premium, which is a nice clean rye whiskey.
It is a good
award-winning rye whiskey, by the way.
Is same with yeah, it's same with their. I'm pretty sure their vodka's really good too.
Yeah. And there's like really clean, but also insanely like well priced, pretty cheap. Yeah. And I drink that all the time, Alberta Premium rye whiskey, and drink a whole like 2.6 of it in a night in university, and then you sleep for like 10 or 11 hours and then wake up and feel like garbage and feel super tired. So it's like, what more proof do you need that sleep basically counts for nothing if you have a bunch of alcohol before it, kind of thing?
Yeah. That's actually super crazy to think of it that way. You're right, because yeah, if you drink that much and then sleep for 12 hours, you surely are rested, but not even close.
Yeah, you wake up and you feel like garbage, and the next day is like a waste. It's not like you like are resting for 12 hours.
Okay, so we got so off topic there. Not that I'm complaining, but let's bring it back to the men's group.
Yeah, men's group.
So, sir, I want to just, I think we should first just let's explain the men's group like a bit, and then because you're looking, like you said, that if there's anyone interested, right? So why don't you maybe just sell it to like what it is to someone that's interested?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, my squad in particular right now, we have 1 or 2 spots open. I think there's other squads either starting up or have 1 or 2 spots open. As far as who it is for, it's for a fairly large variety of men. Anyone that like identifies as men. We have like I haven't experienced like trans men per se, but I've had a decent amount of like, you know, gay men or, you know, different kinds of men. Compared to women, men are usually a lot worse at both having the vulnerability to say, hey, I need connection and I want connection, and then also like go out and make action to have that happen. So a lot of men are just kind of not that connected with other men or the world, and maybe not well equipped with like how to go about doing that. So we meet every week, and I would say men's group is, I mean, yeah, it's really hard to say who it is and isn't for. It isn't for anyone that can't commit to a weekly meeting, that isn't prepared to like be vulnerable, isn't prepared to be challenged, isn't prepared to like, you know, try to grow or improve in some way. And that's an interesting point also about like personal development, right? Is there's this whole like notion of like, we only have this one life, and there's only so much personal growth you can do. And we can see that through our ancestors. Like every generation made slight improvements that led to where we're at now. And it's not like they figured it out all in one generation or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, not to put some unruly amount of pressure on ourselves to like, oh, we're on some quest and there's a finish line to this quest and let's get there before we die. Like I really don't think of it as that at all. It's just kind of like, how do we understand ourselves better? How do we operate better? And how do we like bring the most value to our community and our world that we're capable of, because that's going to both benefit us the most and our external world the most. So yeah, I mean, definitely part of men's group is like helping men realize their potential, and ask them to like, you know, step up into their potential kind of thing as well, like a challenge of sorts.
Yeah, I feel like I think that's a important thing with it, is it you're not just going there to hang out. It's you're trying to learn and get better, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, there is for sure degree of like, you know, I don't know. I think military gives a lot of people the wrong ideas, but there is a regimented, rigorous, strict nature to the container of things that requires like weekly commitment,
Absolutely.
accountability, reliability, etc. So yeah,
One thing that I always think of your men's group reminds me a lot of, and even you saying that, is just being on a sports team, like my soccer team. It's like a thing of like, so I have a group of people that we show up every week at the same time. It's either 10 or 10:30 or like whatever. Like there's a schedule put out, and we're gonna be there because we like all committed to that. And then there's a ref that does that, and then there's another team that does that with a whole bunch of people. And it's like what it does is it makes it so like you all have to show up. If you don't show up, if I just am like, if you don't have that like ability to keep showing up, and that goes across the whole of it, not just your team but the other team and the ref for like in my purpose, then you can't play the sport. And it's the same thing. So I'm like, in my sense, I'm lucky I have something where it's that, whereas there is like it gives you something where it's like you have to show up and participate to make this thing work. And I think that's an important thing to have in your life, is an accountability to something that's not just work.
yeah, and I mean, I think I think it's important to like have different environments for different parts of our life. You know, like we have there's so many different parts to who we are, both as men but also just as humans. You know, like women share this quality as well. Like we have parts of us that are serious, that are playful, that are hardworking, that are loving, that are jealous, that are aggressive, that are like, you know, all these different parts. And like people can kind of get trapped into like one channel or another, when really I think my understanding is that the best way to live life is to be fairly proficient and relatively even in all these different parts that make us like a total person. So what I say to guys in men's group is like, cherish this environment that has the uniqueness that you can just speak your mind unfiltered here. Like whether you're at home with your partner, or at work with your coworkers, or out with your friends or whatever, there's always some mask we have on as far as how we're communicating and what we're saying, and how we filter it based upon how much we care about what the person's going to think about us after we say the thing. So so I tell guys like, yeah, in this environment, like just be totally unfiltered. Just like take your internal thoughts and just verbalize them. And I'm really, you know, not under the impression that like any of these guys are actually such monsters underneath it that after you take off the filter, it's going to be this like horrendously demonic shit that needs to be like castrated. It's never that. And
There,
that's always people's fear. And it's
yeah,
never that.
yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, like the devil inside on Netflix, that person, that's like the one in the million that gets a Netflix doc because they're evil. Like that person doesn't exist to the same extent. Like most people are not bad inherently, or even in their intention, I feel.
Yeah, and there's fucked up people out there for
Of
sure,
course.
but it's just kind of that whole like idea of like so many things in life exist on like a spectrum of duality, like oh, shyness versus outgoingness, or like happiness versus sadness, or like whatever. And yeah, just kind of like finding some kind of middle ground there. um
I do agree. It's excuse me, to your point of like the I think if you disperse yourself as a human in a whole bunch of different directions and become like good or proficient, whatever word you want to use, to at things, I think that is like the spice of life. Because if you just become really really good at one thing, I think it like, first off, just objectively as a human, it really narrows your perspective on everything. If all you like, if you're just like insanely good at one thing, but it's okay to be really good at one thing, but if it's come at the sacrifice of like a whole bunch of other things, it kind of gives you a very narrow perspective on anything. But also just internally for yourself, I think that like life is pretty like, you know how you meet people and they're like 85, 90, and they don't want to die, but they're also ready to go. Like, if it's my time, it's my time. I think it's because, like, at a certain point, life gets a little boring because you've seen a lot of stuff. It's all like that at the end. And so I feel like to like keep things going is you have to diversify and like spread your interests out and do different things. Like the whole men's group, to me, to be honest, I think it's really cool, but myself, it actually would make me nervous to do it.
Why would it make you nervous?
I don't know. I just think it, like, the whole thought of how it works, I just the accountability and all that stuff, I'd just be afraid I couldn't live up to it. To be like, I'd want to, but I'd be afraid I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would be a fruitful thing to to explore for sure. Like, I mean, we do both weekly and trimesterly accountabilities, and there's a 14-point code in the Brotherhood, and point number 1 of the code is make your word good, which is like follow through on your word, like under promise and over deliver. Don't get all fucking optimistic about how much you have to offer the world and over promise and under deliver, because that makes both the people you promise to unhappy, and it makes us unhappy too, because we're like, oh, I didn't fulfill all my word, I feel like shit. But whenever you under promise and over deliver, you feel good, because it's like, I delivered and I didn't spread myself thin, and I was honest with the world and myself about what I had to offer, and etc etc. So
right. I like that. That's a really good. Okay.
So when guys are doing weekly accountabilities in the spirit of make your word good, it's less about the quantity and the bravado of what you're setting, and more about like, how sure are you that you can actually like set that as your weekly accountability and keep your word that that's what you're going to do.
Right.
Sometimes they're super simple, humble accountabilities. One of my accountabilities like 5 years ago is to floss my teeth every day. Right. So it's like,
that's a good
pretty basic shit.
Okay.
But that's something I'm like, I need to do that more. I'm not doing that enough. I'm going to hold myself accountable with this group of men for me to take care of myself better in this particular way. So, you know, it's less about the like I'm a captain, so whenever one of my members sets like an excessive amount of things for their weekly accountabilities, I'm kind of like, okay, we're starting to dabble into like quantity over quality realm here, and
right.
What are you actually trying to achieve? What are the things that you're going to have to do anyways that you don't even need to be setting as an accountability, because you're going to have to do them anyways. There's other forces in the universe holding you accountable.
Right, like if you're like, I'm going to go to work
pay
every
rent,
day,
it's like your landlord needs you to pay rent.
Yeah,
we don't.
Yeah. Okay, that, yeah. So, okay, then let's set the scene a little bit here just after you saying that. So, like, you join the men's group. What are the weekly accountabilities? I kind of get an idea, but do you want to speak more light to what it is?
I mean, weekly accountabilities are something that each man's setting for himself.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, a group would look like we meet at 6 p.m. You need to arrive at the location around, 5:50, 5 to 10 minutes beforehand. Group starts like promptly at 6. It's a 3-hour group, ends at 9 p.m. Throughout the group, we're going to usually, first thing, I usually like to do some kind of grounding energetic thing, some kind of breath work, meditation, body scan. If there's any important announcements, someone's away, someone's sick, there's an open house coming up, etc., announcements will happen next, and then we'll do 2-minute check-ins where each guy in the group does a quick 2-minute emotional report on their week. We're not looking for like information that a fly would see, like he put the book down on that counter. We just want to know like what's the emotional significant parts of the week. And then
so would that be like something like you're like, yeah, so I had like, I don't know, some of my clients were really like negative and sad, and it kind of bummed me out, but then my daughter was good. Like something like that, just quick, sums it up, but not like too crazy.
Yeah, well, you get a full 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2-minute check-in, and that gives everyone and myself as a captain an idea of like who had a really lot of shit going on there last week versus like who had a pretty simple week, who might need to share later, who doesn't need to share. And then after the 2-minute check-ins, it could be a variety of things. Could go straight into open share, could be doing an exercise. There's a whole variety of exercises that have to do with various aspects of men's work, and can be pertaining to the code, it can be pertaining to some aspect of like shadow work, can be like a, like a vulnerable exercise, can be like a boastful exercise, like again exploring those different aspects of like being a total person. um, and yeah, so those exercises, and then an important part of something that should be, I believe, nurtured every week is just open share. So that's a space where it's like, all right guys, space is open, floor can be claimed by anyone who wants to share. And ideally, this is an environment where guys are taking advantage of the space to share something, they need to get off their chest, maybe vulnerable, they need feedback on, they want other guys' thoughts on. Maybe they don't want other guys' thoughts on, and they just really need to fucking get it off their chest. So that's my job as a captain after anyone shares, to check in with them and be like, hey, Jeremy, like, thanks for the awesome share. How are you feeling? Do you want people's feedback and thoughts on what you just said, or you just kind of need to get that out of your chest and, like, feeling good now? You just want to settle.
Cool.
Most of the time, guys are like, yeah, no, I'm curious to hear people's thoughts on it. But that's still important to check in on. And then,
well, that's good to know too, because yeah, it is true. There's sometimes you just want to yell, and it doesn't matter. You don't need an answer. You just need to yell, so to speak. There's other times you're actually like talking and like, I need to hear some answers to what like when I say yell, I mean like metaphorically.
Yeah. And then try to make room for at least a couple shares every week as well. And yeah, we'll usually have a quick break in the middle, 5 minutes, go pee kind of thing, and then end promptly at 9 p.m. And then we have accountability partners, so we're checking in with our partners throughout the week about our weekly accountabilities, and then at the end of every month we check in on progress on trimesterly accountabilities, and at the end of every trimester check in on how the goals went, and kind of like start to like, oh, okay, like so and so's been achieving their goals every trimester as they've set out to. Fucking awesome. Oh, this other person, oh, you failed like goals in this category 3 trimesters in a row. So as a captain, I either need you to set like some reward up for yourself for successfully achieving a goal in that category, or I need you to set up like a consequence for yourself if you don't successfully achieve the goal in that category. Whatever feels like a stronger motivator for you, a carrot or a stick, like you get to pick, but you need to pick something else, because just verbal accountability is clearly not enough for you to get the shit done.
What it sounds like, just kind of like what men's group is. I think it makes you very mindful. Like you have, because like things like you were saying, like you be like, oh, you've had these 3 objectives, and for 3 trimesters in a row, you're not achieving them.
Yeah.
And you might think like it's easy to not think about that, and it just happens, and you're just like, oh, whatever, and you don't really like perceive that you've like set some goals and failed them, right? Because it's like, maybe you don't want to perceive that you failed them, or so you tuck it away or whatever. But like what this does is it like, I don't know, I think it's very easy. Like I always think of when you work out, you can work out and be like, oh, I have like perfect technique, and to a degree you might have an idea, not perfect, but like you know what you're doing. But the problem is, so like when I'm saying perfect technique, I mean like you're not like ruining yourself. It doesn't mean you're like, everyone's like, wow, that's like a master class in how to move. It just means you're moving, so you're not gonna like blow your back out. But then someone else will watch you and they'll be like, oh, your hips, you're doing this or that, and they can correct you. And then all of a sudden you realize you're like, oh, I'm not moving perfectly. So it's like, it's sometimes hard to actually audit yourself. And so this is something where you actually have someone that's like, I guess the word you used is holds you accountable, but it also makes you to achieve your goals so the person doesn't have to hold you accountable. It's because you're like mindfully making sure you're doing steps in your life. And I feel like a lot of the time, at least for myself, and I'm trying to get better at this, is I wasn't very mindful of what I was doing. I was just doing stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely like setting the goal, but also in context of the first point of the code, make your word good. It's like, dude, you gave us your word 3 trimesters in a row that you were going to do the same thing. And 3 trimesters in a row, your word was compromised. So there is that cry wolf aspect to things where we're trying to remind men of, for people in general, but men specifically, like the power of the word. And that's why it's so important to like under promise and over deliver, because it's like, it's a lose-lose situation, the optimistic over promising and under delivering kind of thing. And it's a win-win situation, the conservative under promising and over delivering kind of thing.
That's a very good point.
So yeah, I mean, it's in a way to hold guys accountable and just make them more mindful of like, what are you giving your word that you're going to do? And we're not trying to get guys to make any hasty decisions before the trimester begins. We're spending time in one of our weekly meetings, like brainstorming in smaller subgroups goals for the next trimester and getting feedback from the other guys on like, does my metric for this goal in this category seem good? Does that make sense? And the other guy might be like, no, the way you have it structured, you have to do this thing like 4 times every week.
Right.
The way you worded it there is 4 times weekly. What if you get sick really bad and you can't do anything that week? You need to reword it in a way that allows for sickness, emergency, travel.
Like, language is so important.
Yeah,
it is so important.
You can just make these slight little linguistic tweaks and like, oh, instead of 4 times every week, you're like this many times per month. And then that way, if one of the week fucks up, it doesn't matter. You make up for it on a future week, right? But you have to provide yourself that flexibility within the contingency of the wording used.
Right, absolutely, yeah. Dude, that got me a little pumped up. I'm not gonna lie. A little jacked right now. Yeah, no, but it's so true. Like I don't know, because there was a certain point in time that like, your word was your honor, and I don't want to say that's disappeared entirely. It's just not to the same degree as it used to be. It used to mean a lot more than it did now.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure how much of that is Venn diagrammed in with like so much of our communication being through text, and text communication maybe feeling less contractually obligating or something rather than a verbal agreement.
No,
or
I think
something.
that I actually genuinely think that's a part of it.
Yeah, it's just like, sure, I'll see you there. Oh wait, no, I can't. Versus like, you talk to the person on the phone, you're like, yeah, no, I'll see you there. Yeah, and it's slightly like, different energy.
Even though like, when you think like, okay, one thing I used to do that when we were growing up, like as kids, so I lived in a cul-de-sac, but I was like pictured as a T, and I was like, if you went to the T and then you just turned right, I was like a house off of the turn, right? So I would always organize hockey tournaments in my like little cul-de-sac there, and every single week on, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, I can't remember now because I was a little kid. This was like elementary school. I would go on my mom would sit me on this little shelf, and I'd open a little cupboard and had all my friends from my school, and I'd call every single one of them and get a hockey game together. And it was like a crazy thing to do because I'd like have to organize it all. And it was like, all it was just getting them dropped off to play hockey. But like, you had to call them all and like confirm and blah, 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 all this stuff. And that always happened. We'd always know who was coming and like all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, as time went on, it like became less of a thing. And it was genuinely through hockey too. Like, as time went on, me and my friends would always play road hockey. But as text and communication got more to what it is now, the more and more likely it was that everyone would be down to play hockey. But then on Friday when they had to show up, there would just be a whole bunch of people that bail and it wouldn't work. And it's like almost like you having to be, yeah, I gotta go pee too. All right, so yeah, I had to pee really bad too.
The micturation station.
I feel like you're going to be on multiple times. We're just under 2 hours right now.
Yep.
So let's wrap it. So why don't you tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to join, or get a contact with for the men's group, and we'll wrap it from there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're a friend of Derek's, you can get my phone number directly from Derek, but also arcabrotherhood.com. Feel free to check out the website. There's the code. few other options on there. I think there is a way to apply on the website, but also if you know a captain, like if you're a friend of Derek's, you can contact me directly or any other captain directly that you happen to be in contact with. So yeah, either the website or a direct contact, but website's a good informational start if someone's curious to learn more.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Riley. This has been super fun.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much.
Just for the record, we were supposed to start with the men's group, and we got sidetracked with the whole hour and 15 minutes to start it. Anyhow, we'll see you guys soon. Take care.